Hello there, and welcome back to Celtic World Order podcast for a wee late night, sort of impromptu reaction, if you will, to that friendly there that we just saw in the Como Cup as it finished all square at full time, and of course, a victory for Celtic against AL-AHLI. Just wanted to jump on and sort of shoot the breeze over it, see what we think about it. So if you're watching there and you have any particular opinion, strong or otherwise, about anything that you saw there, where you think we are in terms of the pre-season with the start of the new season, just a weekend over, where do you think we're at? Do you think that we are anywhere near ready, or do you still see work to be done? Do you think it's pre-season? Take it with a pinch of salt. It's all about minutes in the legs. It's all about fitness, and it's nothing to do with being a barometer to where we are or where certain players are. Get them in. I'd ideally like to have as many of your opinions up here for us to discuss, rather than just me sitting here and telling you what I think. But as we always say, welcome back to the channel. If you are a continuing subscriber, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. If you're one of the members, fantastic. We really appreciate the donations. $1.99 helps put the channel together, and we appreciate every single one of you who have done that so far. Get us on our socials, connect elsewhere, CWO 1888, Blue Sky, Spotify, the new Instagram, you know it by now, and the TikTok. There's plenty of ways to do it, so get yourself involved. As I say, we'll just have a wee brief oversight, but let me know, more importantly, what are your takeaways for the pre-season of what we've seen? What's your takeaways from particularly the Como Cup last two games, and what is your thoughts as we look towards the new season just kicking off next Sunday? Are you apprehensive about it? Do you have worries? Are you concerned? Are you comfortable with it? Do you, as it says there, trust the process? Are people overreacting? Are we going to turn a corner? Is the manager going to get the resources that he needs? Well, get it up, let us know, and we'll talk about that as much as we can. So there's a few is in here already. It's starting to stack up. Love it. Good to see McLaughlin in. Good stuff. Yourself as well. Alan on YouTube, thank you very much. Love that. Yep, so let's dive in and see what's happening. Of course, we know the starting lineup. It was an all-change starting lineup, and I think it was quite funny when you looked at it on the social media. Various people were taking different approaches to what they thought that meant. Some were just taking it as, well, it's a nothing game. We ain't going to go and win that Como Cup. We're not going to get a treble of pre-season trophies before the season kicks off. It's all about rotating the squad, maybe wrapping up in cotton wool some of the guys that we would expect to start as the season kicks off. Other people were saying it's a message to the board to say that the squad is thin, particularly, and we'll go on to it, when you see Marco Tilio, a guy who, I must be honest, one of my takeaways for that is, thank God I will never have to look at that guy ever again. I think I get some sort of eye infection watching him. It was that bad. But yes, some were saying the inclusion of Tilio was very much to say, this is how threadbare my winging options are. Help me out here, board. But as I say, I think it was really just a case of saying it's a nothing game, get some minutes in the leg. So as we said, we started off, Sinisalo, Johnson, Carter Vickers. Good to see the two of them back in the squad. I think as we got on to it, they are lacking match sharpness. They don't quite look like themselves, and rightfully so. They've not played a lot of minutes. It was more about getting them some game time. That was which is imperative. However, again, hopefully, I'm not sure if there are, but it'd be good to have one, maybe two bounce games between now and the start of the season to at least give those guys maybe another 45 minutes or so. Because if you were going to play them, then, of course, based on what we've seen, I don't think they're ready for the competitive edge that you are going to get from the opening league match against St Mirren. But good to see them in the squad nonetheless. Trusty, we'll get on to him. He's on the thumbnail. I think personally, a big highlight there, man of the match for me. And as McLaughlin said that, I fully agree. Man of the match, I think for me, it was positive to see that he's had a few good games. In terms of pre-seasons, we've come on here, you're probably bored about it, and we'll go on to them, don't you worry. We talk about certain players that have been polarising the fan base. I'm looking at you, Ida. I'm looking at you, Engels. We always say the important thing for these guys who've maybe had an up and down sort of stuttery sort of start was give them a full pre-season, get them bedded in and let them kick on and show what they've got. And as far as pre-seasons go, Trusty definitely looks like a guy who has shown improvement. And yes, for me, man of the match, can't disagree with that at all. We move further on. Inamura Kieran Tierney, of course, has been phenomenal. And Amura has been very dependable, so he gets the nod there. Another one good to see back in the squad, Bernardo. McLaughlin also saying he thinks that Bernardo was good. Yep, we'll go on to him. I thought he had a shaky start. I thought the early phases, him and Engels in particular, I thought the ball retention was extremely poor. It was extremely lacking, and they were getting washed out in that midfield. I know the pitch was extremely slippery. It could be a contributing factor, but for me, they took time to bed in. Bernardo did settle into his role. He improved, and alongside them, of course, was McCown, another standout, another guy that for me, in terms of taking chances with the scruff of the neck and showing what you've got to plant a seed, big pass marks for McCown. Of course, we look further. Engels, Forrest, Tillio and Kenny. So all change up front. Good to see the evergreen James Forrest playing a full game. And I thought, again, he looked as good as he'd ever looked. And maybe in some respects, it is a positive, but also it is something of a slight bit of concern, perhaps, that he is, at this moment in time, probably arguably our best winger option that we've got. And in 2025, if we are being completely honest with ourselves, it's no ideal, is it? It's no ideal, but pass marks to him, and he continues to show desire every single season. Some other ones coming in here as well. Yep, I think as well. Yes, Sinisalo, Slaven Kavic, giving him a shout out. Yeah, I think he was good. I thought that he was definitely showed plenty of what we've already seen from him, showing that he's very, able. He is definitely, I've no concerns about him getting the baton passed on to him and becoming the number one. As we've said before on these shows, the past sort of couple of weeks, for me, I think we really want to be starting to really integrate him more into the first team starting next season, whether that is giving him, I suggested, for example, like 1 in 4 league games, and then splitting the cups, and maybe, just maybe, depending on the level of opposition, you could maybe throw him a bone and give him some Champions League or Europa League or Conference, whatever it is, we may well end up, give him some time in there. But it's important that he's getting regular game time. And again, I think that he does a good showing for himself tonight. If I'm being a wee bit particularly fussy, I think that he's got to do better with the goal. Again, I come back to the wet pitch. When I watched it back, I think he's sort of leaning on his left leg. I think given the nature of the sort of shot the guy was going for with the sort of scissor kick, he probably anticipates it's going to go across the face of him. So he's leaning on his left, and it maybe catches him a wee bit late. So I'm maybe being hypercritical there, but at the same time, it's not the best of connections. It's not like it's rifled right down his throat. And probably from a personal standpoint, Sinisalo's looking at that and thinking, yeah, I could have probably got a stronger hand to that. But again, that's nitpicking. He does not too bad with the penalties, of course. There's a wee save in there. So some real positives in there. But yeah, let's look through it. I thought the first half in particular, I thought was, well, I wouldn't go as far to say it was concerning, but it was far from classic. One thing about AL-AHLI was they are a big, physical, imposing team. That was one thing that struck me straight away. I didn't really know too much about them, but I felt that they were big, strong, they were very athletic, and by God, they were putting themselves about, weren't they? Some of the tackles, there was a lot of needle in that. You would be mistaken to think that actually wasn't a competitive game. And I think in terms of that, the referee let himself down. I think there was a lot of stuff getting let go in there that quite frankly should have merited bookings or at least stronger words with it, because it was starting to get to the stage where there was a wee bit of concern that people might have ended up getting hurt. And on hindsight, when you look at it, it's probably good that we didn't have starters on the pitch, because that's the danger when you have games like that. It's good to have a competitive edge to them, but I've never seen a referee really lose a handle on a game as quickly as he did there. So as I say, you've got some comments coming in here. Let's bring them up as much as we possibly can. As we say, let's have a wee thoughts on what you've got there. I've got a few here. People want to talk about particular players, some generalised questions. Bring up Slaven Kavic. Now, I know I've said those might have caught me earlier. I was watching the Axom. I was getting involved in the comments there, and I love it. There was a lot of heated debate, and that's the great thing about it. A lot of people disagreeing with some of my views, and me disagreeing with other folks' views, and vice versa, all over the comments. That is the prerogative. That's the beauty of being a fan, isn't it? We all have our own truth, our own different opinions, but what Cabbage is saying here is don't judge players in a pre-season. Don't forget the manager will not want to injure any players and upset it before the start of the season. 100%. it's a balancing act, isn't it? You need that competitive edge. You need the games to be hard, but you also have got to strike a balance. There's a difference between, I think, maybe coasting through games, phoning it in, so to speak, or snapping at tackles. We've not had any of that, but I think that there's got to be a fine balancing act for it. It has been good. It's been a decent pre-season in terms of getting some minutes into the legs of various players and getting to see what it is. I was I wouldn't say disagreeing, but I was at odds and opinions with some folk when I was on the chat earlier on. And I think all for me, all I want to do is point out is, as I say a million times, and I will repeat it, I want, believe it or not, every single guy that pulls on the Celtic shirt, I want to see them succeed. Just because I don't particularly rate a performance or what I've seen in them on a whole, their body of work so far, doesn't mean I am desperate for these guys to fail. Neither is Paddy, Joe, anybody that comes on here, Liam, Paul. We all want these guys to succeed. That is what we want. But again, it would be remiss, it would be foolish, it would be lies if we came on here and just says everything that we see, the board, the running of the club, the performances, that everything is without fault. That would just be a false economy, and we wouldn't do that. Celtic World Order, we're always going to be unfiltered, we're always going to be truthful, we're always going to give you our opinion as we see it. We're not here to tell you we're right, we're not here to tell you you're wrong. We want debates. This is what we want. So get your opinions up and let us know what you think of it. Strange Love's in the house. Good to see you as well. And he is saying a very similar sort of thing here. He is saying that as prep in general, we're pleased with the most of the pre-season. Ajax second half, I said, yeah, it was a bit of shambles, wasn't it? It was a bit of capitulation. And I thought the thing that made that harder was the fact that we did run out essentially against the Ajax B stroke youth type team that were picking us apart. That's no ideal. But again, we had statistically in that game, we looked good, and we could have easily been up 3-1 in the first half. So it's about taking the information, as Brendan Rodgers has said previously. It's about digesting that and seeing where we can go wrong, where we can go right, and see what we can improve on. Definitely will be a lot of takeaways from it there. I think that's the thing. Yep, Hiato and Amura, Nigrin and Shin, we'll go on to him. Big positives there. Big positives. I definitely liked what I had seen there so far from them. Inamura, I think, again, tonight, he shows that he is an ample deputy. He's got a lot in his locker. Do I think that that's just that box ticked? No worries, don't need anybody else. Absolutely not. I'm still not buying into that, and I certainly hope that the board don't buy into that. I hope that the manager has changed his perception. He's played him enough to think that he's went, well, do you know what? He was club signing, as they say, but he's seen plenty of worth in him. He's absolutely someone I would keep in the squad. I would keep him around, and I think that, yeah, horses for courses. Depending on what the opposition are, we know that your chances of getting Tierney going the full season, every single game, is highly unlikely. You've got to manage him. There'll be those plastic pitches and stuff. You want to avoid them from certain games, but I think you need to intersperse that and give plenty of time to Inamura. One thing I do like about him is, by God, he's got a lovely pass, hasn't he? What a range of passing. That outside of the boot pass that he done sort of late on in the second half was just absolutely class. I love that. He looks confident, and again, I'll hold my hands up. I thought when he came in, it was easy to write it off and say, Kobayashi, cheap. Not the answer. Coming for a bad team, coming for a team low in his division with a terrible defensive record, but there you go. Surprise package. I love it. But what I will say once again is we also still need to go and get another proper left back option. He should be there. He gives you a different style. There's alternation. He was doing a lot of that Greg Taylor stuff, wasn't he? He was bringing himself into the midfield, doing those overloads and things like that. It was kind of reminiscent of that inverted fullback type of thing that we saw from Greg Taylor, whereas you're getting a traditional sort of fullback role from Tierney, where it's about bombing down the wings, doing those overlaps, getting in the cross. And I like that. But I would also like to see someone who is definitely up in a standard that is, somewhere between Inamura and Tierney, if not as close to Tierney. I know it's a big ask, but someone that you could definitely say they are starting quality. Whether that's going to be that Flavio Nuzinho, if that's something we revisit, I don't know. But nonetheless, I think positive, but we definitely need something else there, because as we saw in the Ajax game, when we had Inamura over Tierney, yeah, he still looked pretty decent considering what he was up against, but you did notably see the drop-off in quality. And that's the underlying point that we talk about in all these positions. It's about making sure you've got like for like, or as near as like for like as you possibly can. If you can avoid it, you don't want to have that drop off in quality, far from it at all. So give me 1 second to have a wee look through here. I will apologise because I'm on a sort of wee temporary setup. As you know, I'm still got the back issue and we're not in the usual setup. But the official CW laptop broke last night after my wee sort of stop on the boys in the bus, which was good to be back on there with Phil and Liam. Go and check it out if you haven't. There was a good chat there. But unfortunately, internet down in the house and the screen on the official CW laptop got broken, so it's been put in an emergency fixing repair shop today. I'll be back in action tomorrow, so I'm using this wee tiny sort of desktop size one. It's my daughter, so I'm struggling a wee bit to read those comments there, but keep it in. I like a wee bit of laughing here. Brad lad, ref was jobby, absolutely. It was rid raw, as my dad would say, and it's good to have you in the house as well. I think as well, here's the thing. You don't think McLaughlin doesn't think that we're going to start the new season with either Engels and Trusty on a bench? No, I don't. But I do think that we are likely to start with Engels on the bench. I'm seeing a lot of praise here for the setup of McCalmack, Hatate, and Nigrin. For me, that is definitely going to be the starting three for me. I think over the piece of the pre-season, Nigrin's come in and he's been like a duck to water. And that's the funny thing, isn't it? When you go and buy players, there's no guarantees. We come back to it and we've been talking, as I say, about looking for and I know I keep mentioning them, but it is important because these are the guys that we say they need a full pre-season. They need to get that behind them and then see them kick on and improve. I thought that over the two, you guys will throw out. I know Brown was shouting that as well, and I'll bring it up here. He's turned around and says that he scored 20 goals from the bench last season, and he talks about Larson scoring 19. I am not by any means discrediting that point. It's a very valid point, but as I say, I appreciate and I respect everybody's opinion. I'm not here to say that you're wrong, and I'm not here to say that I'm right. But what I am saying is this is my view, this is my truth on it, and stats and anybody else's opinion are not going to change that, unfortunately. I value your opinion, I'll bring them up, and I like to see sort of opposites. That's what makes being a football fan, isn't it? It makes for chat. But I just think that for me, he's a good goals to game ratio, but the problem is, and I reiterate it, for me, he's been so inconsistent. That's the one thing that he does definitely going to struggle with. Potentially, it might not necessarily be completely footballing reasons. It could be a mindset reason. It could be something else. But for me, there just still looks to be something off with Adam Ida. Again, I come to the pre-season. The pre-season is about minutes in the legs. It's about, getting yourself fitting up to speed, but it's also about catching the eye. It's about kicking on and showing something. Certainly like Nigrin, as I say, he's come in, brilliant that he's had this pre-season because it's allowed him to bed in, get up to speed, hit the ground running, and as I say, like a duck to water, perfect. Ida, for me, still during this pre-season, Brown, I think that he has had a full pre-season now. And I asked myself, does he look any better from the player that finished off last season? And truthfully, or at least in my truth, I don't think he does. I expected so much more from him, and there's still wee flashes. He just looks like a guy that's out of sort. But again, we have questions to answer. We're thin on the wing, so at this moment in time, whilst we're still having to move Maeda out onto the left, it does put him in the frame. It puts him in the frame to be a striker. But should we go and get, as the manager said, he wants to, again, add another striker. Hopefully that happens, because I do think that we need to have someone who you can sort of hang your hat on. Shin Yamada will go on to him. I think he looks positive. I see plenty of good attributes in him. A goal that's cut off, he scores a winning penalty. But what he does show us is he shows a combination of great attributes that we have liked and we've seen for some of the Japanese guys before. Fast turn of pace. Is he as quick as Maeda? Time will tell. But he was strong. He had a good fight in him. And I liked the way that he moved around the pitch. I think, again, that he could be a guy with the right service and certainly get the right attitude. That'll help him. We'll look at the other options. We'll look at a Johnny Kenny. Yes, I love the intensity. I love the work rate he puts himself around. Do I think he has the levels to kick on? Really, really on the fence with Kenny. I would like, because I'd always like these guys to succeed, particularly a young guy that's came off the Ireland, that's living the dream, all that kind of nostalgic and that sort of bleary-eyed stuff. I'd love to see it, but I don't know. I think if we get another striker in, and that maybe moves in, and wingers, I think if even with that, you're probably saying I would put Maeda through the middle, if we have additional wing options, and then that starts to look down the pecking order. And just based on this pre-season, for me, I don't want to labour too much into either stuff. I think that when you look at the effort that has been put in by Johnny Kenny, that's going to plant a seed. We know what Dyson Maeda's already got. And again, depending on if there's bounce games or whatever minutes he gets, very early signs. We're not going to get ahead of ourselves, but I put out a tweet on our social media and I says, Shin Yamada showed more than 45 minutes than Adamida has this whole entire pre-season. That's my thoughts. Everybody's perfectly fine to disagree with it. Let us know what you thought of Shin. Let you know if you prescribe to that way of thinking or not. But I do think, again, if Yamada comes in and shows the work rate and can carry that on and add goals to his game, with whatever game time he gets, then it starts to put Adam Ida's place in jeopardy, and that's when the big man needs to rise up to it in that as well. And there we go. As he says, that's the Slab and Cabbage says, yep, that's great. And I mean, that's what I love it. I love the debate. You know, this is one thing with CWO, but like many other podcasts that are out there, we want this interaction. There's no point in us all sitting here and agreeing on it. I mean, that'd be completely boring, isn't it? I mean, and this is the thing. Some people turn around and say, oh, be negative or, point out these things. That's Rangers fan behaviour. That's Rangers fan behaviour. But I actually counter that and I say Rangers fan behaviour's blind belief. Because remember, every single season, they're back, they're going to win, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. Every player they sign is the best player ever. Everything the board do is the greatest thing in the world. No, blind belief is Rangers behaviour. Asking questions, debating, try to be constructive. That is the opposite. They very rarely question stuff, don't they? That's what I think. But let's get on to it. Yeah, Alan Devine is in. Good to see you here on the YouTube channel. Shin looks powerful and fast and knows where the goal is. Yes, and it was brilliant to see him, wasn't it? We all want to see that new person, that new personality, that new player on the pitch for the first time. Good run out for him. Very, very positive. As I say, all the right attributes, I think, to look, if he can carry that on and kick that on. I says when he first came in, if he can show a third, 2/3 of the energy levels that you get out of Maeda and the sort of skill that you'll maybe get out of Hatate, then we'll be doing good. I think so far it's only 45 minutes and some penalties, but definitely you can see, and I hate it, here it is, sound the klaxon, there's a player in there. And again, maybe similarly Inamura, his position within the team and the goal drought, if you want to call it that, was maybe just indicative of where that side is. Maybe he wasn't getting the service. Maybe with the better players around him, there'll be far better service. And Brown's saying, yeah, he looks much like Hooper to me. That first chance, he slapped it into the far corner, giving the keeper no chance. Yeah, he does. That's the one thing I like about him. He looks quite small in stature. When you look at his highlight reel, one thing that did stand out, similarly Lee Griffiths, he likes a header. For a small guy, he gets up for headers, but no, the power for me, there was a couple of times where he was shoulder to shoulder, he was ball winning, and he had that kind of bit of fire and grit that you get out of Maeda. And what I liked as well is the once or twice that he was getting in about people, he didn't do the sort of classic, some of the, particularly like Kyogo, the Japanese guys would be too friendly in the arm around and help him up. No, he just get on with his business. I like that. I like that wee bit of sort of fire in him, and hopefully that's something that will come on, because we all know we don't play in a hammer-thrown league. But one thing that we know about the Scottish League is that it's hard, it's robust. You will get people who will try to bury you. And I think, there we go. Oh, yes, San Fran. Yes, he's loving it. He's saying he'll be our player of the year. I want that to be the case. I want to see some absolutely madness. I want to see, and Alan's saying away, Maeda and Shin Yamada, frightening. Yes, think about that. If we are going to alternate and we are going to use Maeda on the wing, I still want to play Maeda through the middle, and I would still want to get additional wingers and improve those areas and utilise. I think that Maeda has shown that he is and should be the first choice striker. He deserves that right. He's earned that right to get that. And I think if we want to keep him at Celtic, keep him in the fold, when he's got one eye in the World Cup, he wants to be the striker for Japan. So I think that he has got to be the guy. He's got to be the main guy, even if we bring somebody else in, so on and so forth. However, when we talk about options and changing things about, right, think how good it would be to take off a winger, shuffle over Maeda to the left, and have Shingen through the middle. Two guys with that sort of rapid pace and power. That could be interesting. Of course, we then need to supplement that over on the right-hand side with a suitable winger. And I never thought that I would say that we would leave Yang out of the side in a pre-season, essentially wrapping him up in cotton wool. Again, that is just a sign of the times of how thin things are, that the manager has decided that he was going to keep him out there. There's Ronnie Pickering. Do you know who I'm at? I'm Ronnie Pickering. I love it. I love that name. Brilliant. Good to have you in there. Get some of the stuff on here as well and let us know. I'm just going to have a wee quick fire through here and see what people are saying. Yeah, they're very much here, but definitely, I agree with Ronnie here. We 100% need a striker and winger. Not because I'm writing off Yamada, I'm sitting here praising him. Not because I am, despite my view on him, completely writing off the other options that we've got in Kenny and Ida, but no, I agree. I think that we do really need a other number one-esque striker, but the wingers, that's the one that is completely imperative for me. I think that we 100% need to add in some of that extra sort of firepower and danger on the wings, because it is thin, to say the least. And, you know, this is the thing. Where are we going to be getting these guys from? I'll come back to what I said the other night. I know we're just getting round, as I say. It's just a wee general shoot the breeze chat. But when I was talking with Liam the other night, and sort of the other afternoon and again last night, the big thing that gets me here is that Celtic's board once again appear to be dithering. Now, what I will say is I'm not buying into this idea. I know that there's plenty of time, but I'll ask you, get your thoughts up on this question. This is a direct to every single one. There's well over 100, nearly 120 watching live. Do you think at this time that we are new season ready? Are we ready for those first four games in the league? St Mirren, there's Rangers, there's Aberdeen in there, and then of course round the corner we will work out who we've got is going to be the Champions League qualifying round, two-legged tie to get into Champions League. Do you think that we are ready? And I think at the moment it's pretty much a resounding no. But why are we not ready? Let me know. I know that says, Steve, come on, you're stating obvious here why we're not ready, but why are we not ready? What is it? Is it the board? Is it the dithering? Do you think they're waiting to see what that Champions League draw is? But the problem I've got with that is it the detriment of the progression of this side? Absolutely. I think that we could get away with the league games, but we don't want to get away with it. I repeat once again, Celtic are currently sitting on £20.75 million in profit for this transfer window alone. You might have seen the story that broke. Juranovic might be on to a move. Guess what? There's more money potentially coming in for there. We'll get the Quan artist moving on. There's another maybe 250,000 shekels in the bank. We're moving on Tilio. There's a loan fee about 400,000 there, and then an obligation to buy if you hit certain markers. So before we've even mentioned it, you're well over £21 million, but we're still not signing anybody. And to say this is the biggest detriment to it, I don't want to be too forceful. I don't want to seem like I am sort of soapboxing here, but we need to send a message. I think if we do not start to see something within the next 2 weeks, or at least, of decent players coming in and key positions that we need, then the fans need to let their voice be heard. Now, I am not saying, one thing I will say is back the team, back the manager 100%, but not the board. If it gets to the stage where we are still stagnating and we are still bringing in coin every single week and we're maybe moving on players, and think of all the wages that we've got off the bill as well. So nearly £21 million in hard income, but that's not also accounting for the X 100,000 or whatever that we might have shed in wages as well. Celtic have no excuses for the low spend that we have at this point, and we need to start making our voice heard. Now, how do we do that? Well, if it got to the piece I'm not talking banners, I'm not talking booing. As I say, it's in the stadium, support the team, back the team. But see, once you step into that stadium, buy absolutely nothing. Programme, stick it up your arse. Pies, drinks, no. Don't waste your match day experience. See all the people that are outside with their stalls and trying to make a living. Buy it off them and give the club nothing as soon as you step in that stadium, because that is what will send a message to them. And it's a silent message, but it will put across whatever that is. Think of how much revenue on top of what they've already got will come in on a match day from people buying stuff inside the stadium, inside the shop on their arrival. Remove that from them for 1 or 2 weeks and then they'll go, wow, we are down. What does that mean? That's the kind of action I would suggest taking if it gets desperate. I know that's maybe a bit too far on. You might go, Steve-o, what are you talking about? But that is the thing. I think that we need to genuinely start trying to make our voice heard, because the manager is starting to just say things until he's blue in the face. How many times have we heard, we need to add quality, that if you want to be ambitious, if you want to show your ambition, then we need to add players. What else can he say other than turning up and saying, get me players right now? Because that's the problem for Brendan as well. He finds himself in a real balancing act, a right balancing act, because he doesn't want to remember in his first season when we had that wee dip where he was banging the drum and getting maybe a wee bit frustrated about we need additional quality. Well, the problem with that was it eroded away the faith of the players that he had in situ at that time. But the performances dropped. Why? Because probably they were thinking, well, he doesn't rate us, and it has a knock-on effect. So he's in a sort of rock and a hard place. He needs to be forceful and shout the message, but he also needs to be keeping those that are already in the building on side with his language and what's he use. We as fans, however, we can do that. We can come on platforms like this. We can go onto fan forums. We can reply whenever Celtic put up their 900 posts a day wishing ex-fans, ex-players happy birthdays and trying to push you the next piece of merchandise. But I think that's what we need to do. And I think the thing as well is, as Brown's saying, if we don't sign our targets in the next 4 weeks, our club is a shambles. Then, of course, the money is there. The manager is there and everything could be successful. There is no excuses. There is no excuses, Brown. You've hit this 100% on the head, and I completely agree with it. And the thing as well is, Slab and Cabbage adds in, yeah, we are run by slow and old men who have been there for years. They're career Celtic men. There's guys on that board that have been there for 10, 15, 20 years. It's unheard of in business. You have to evolve or you will just pass away. The way I come back to it, I always describe the way that Celtic are ran and the way the Celtic board is as being like an old 2-litre, 2.5-litre diesel engine. You know, it's dependable. It ticks away, it ticks over, it does everything right. It's dependable. You can sort of hang your hat on it. It's not going to blow up and let you down. But at the same time, it does nothing to blow you away, does it? And that's very much what the Celtic board is. The Celtic board is a diesel engine. It's just happy to just have enough performance. Nothing is going to pull away for the competition and start ripping up trees. Just slow and steady will win the race, or in our case, slow and steady and spending just enough will just keep you ahead in the title race and keep you up there until you can assert dominance, because that is ultimately what it was. As the manager saying, he's talking about ambition, and that is definitely what we need to do. Celtic need to match ambition. The thing is how many different levels is there in Celtic? As long as we can qualify for the Champions League, yeah, it's always going about money. It's always going about participation. It's always going to be about, you know, keeping the money flow coming in. But at the same time, we did well. We got ourselves to that next round. It would be nice, wouldn't it, to again make a last 16, maybe the luck of the draw make a last 8. And I think, if I'm being honest, a last 8 that's the maximum at this moment in time. I don't really see it going there. But what I will say is, buy them in early. I keep saying this, buy these players in early, because one, the gaps are there in the squad, and we know that. The manager's crying out for it. But it's about giving yourself the best possible chance. Leave nothing up to chance. Leave nothing up to fate. Do everything you can. And again, I know you don't like talking about it, but look across the city. Whether, I say a million times, whether you think the players that they have signed are going to be garbage or brilliant, the main thing is they have got the players in, and you can tell that they're players that their managers went for because of where they're all come from, English Championship and things like that. He's essentially went, these are the guys that I want, and with the resources that they've got, which are far, far, far less than what Celtic have got, they're at least going out and doing it. So they're giving him the earliest possible chance to get guys in and make it work. Celtic, on the other hand, with all the resources that we've got, the millions, tens upon millions in the bank, the elite manager in place, the massive appeal and size as a club, we're not doing that. And that's where my frustration comes in. And this is the problem. We are not matching, or the board are not matching the ambitions of the manager, us as fans, and ultimately as well, those players that are in there. Because, yeah, every player wants to have their place in the team. Don't get me wrong. If you say, I can guarantee your place every single week, they take it, bite your hand off. But they also want to have other players coming in that are exciting talents to work alongside. They want competition. They want to test themselves. They want to try and get themselves into the squad ahead of somebody that is better than them or that's came in for a lofty price tag and go, I'll prove a point here. Again, case in point, the whole who's the midfield, Engels or Negan. Negan comes in a snap. Yeah, he's probably worth more than that and we got him a deal. But he comes in, he's looking going, right, the one that I'm probably going to have to dislodge here's the guy that spent 11 million on. And he comes in and by God, he digs in. Then even you look at the fight tonight, I want to get back to the action because we've been tangent a wee bit, but I love that kind of stuff. You look at McCowan tonight, for me, you could throw him in the hat for a man of the match performance. Was it perfect? No, it wasn't. But by God, that boy's got fight, he's got desire, and he's somebody who is basically wanting to show the manager, listen, I've got plenty to offer here. I think that's the thing that we need to be doing. And here's the thing, there's some more income as Kieran here is saying, 48 million plus in the Champions League are more bored about the 3.5 from the SPFL. Absolutely. And this goes further back. As I said, I want to get back to the action, but this goes back, if you think of the missteps that we've had historically, or the amount of times that we've missed out in the Champions League, I think, maybe 9, maybe 10 times since the demise of Rangers, of course. We didn't spend. Now, you could have argued the toss that we shouldn't have spent the money because the competition wasn't there. But that was exactly the time when Celtic should have been spending because, yeah, the stadium was half empty, but I can guarantee you that see if you had put better product on the pitch in terms of players and looked as if you were at least trying to have one eye on doing a wee bit better than Europe, those half stands would have turned into full stands because people would have bought in that you were trying to move us forward as a club. If you think in 9 or 10 seasons, think of how much revenue that is that they have lost from potential Champions League money, anywhere around about the 300 million mark, which is absolutely bananas. It's verging on complete and utter gross negligence, to be honest, isn't it? It's mental. But yeah, let's get back to the action. First half was, it was so, wasn't it? I think, as I say, some decent enough performances. Trusty for me, I liked the reading his game. I felt that he seems to be a guy that, I don't know, when he's playing against a better calibre opposition, he reads the game quite well. He's never going to be one of these guys, I think, that's going to, be a complete and utter outright ball winner. He's not going to be like a big, Johan Mjällby type or something. But what I like him is he's an interceptor. He reads the game. He cuts out passes. Yeah, at times we can see where he can get physical and make tackles, but he anticipates rather than having to go and shoulder to shoulder and win the ball. I thought he had a really, really stable, steady game. And as I say, he's looking ahead from it based on the balance, everything that we've had. I'm picking him over Scales. I was, what I thought of Scales. I said that after the game against Ajax. I just think that it's diminishing returns that we're getting out of him. I think that he's somebody that should be in the squad. But again, look back at where our squad is. We need these guys that we're bringing in to be coming through. We need them to be the guys that are the starters. Carter Vickers is still undoubtedly the best defender at the club, but when you think about it, how many seasons he's been at Celtic now, and he's still nailed on, that's not a problem. That's good, but he's also nailed on because there's no real competition for him. And that in itself is a wee bit of a problem. You look at that left centre-half position as well. We've tried the Narotsky thing. It's not happened. We have obviously brought in Scales. And again, no disrespect to Scales, but in 2025, should he be considered to be one of the starters? Well, no, he shouldn't. And then we look over. It was good to see Alistair Johnson back in the mix. Tony Ralston, I say, it was I think some people got a bit misconstrued with Liam and I talking. They think that we suggested that he's a starter or first-team guy. no, I think he's a squad player. But again, we need to get somebody else in there. And the reality is I wouldn't be surprised, by the way, if you maybe ended up getting him starting against St Mirren, as daft as that sounds, because I felt that Alistair Johnson, you could see that he was lacking that sort of game time with the squad there, obviously come back from his international exploits, but he doesn't look up to speed. Again, I touched on it. I was very positive about getting Bernardo back in. You know what I think of him? I'm a big fan of him. I thought that him and Engels really struggled in the first 20, 25 minutes. I thought ball retention was, excuse the French, dog shit. It was terrible. They were getting breezed off the ball at times, but he started to find a wee bit of grit, and he's played quite well in that number 6 role. He was holding things up, trying to break up the play. And as I says about him, he's never going to catch your eye. He does the kind of dirty things and the wee bits behind the scenes, and he does them very well, and he does them tidy. He's a tidy player. He's not massively going to blow your socks off. And again, that's what I think when we think about moving forward for a squad. He's probably more than likely going to be a guy who is parachuted in. I think he's a bench guy who's going to be parachuted in to consolidate a result, if keep a scoreline, keep you ahead, or dig in if you're maybe in Europe and things like that. That's what I think there in terms of that. Tilio, get it in. But talk to me about Tilio. I mean, come on. Come on, man, Marco Tilio. Jeez, I saw a funny post on social media. Did you see that? Did you see that? The robot. I think it was over in Japan or something. They did a big robot, and they were showing it how to run. It was running down a hill, and somebody put out a thing there, turning around saying, "Marco Tilio had been asked to chase the ball." Aye, that was very much him. I am glad to see the back of him there. Hopefully, I think it's 20 games he needs to play on his move to get that obligation to buy. So he better look a lot better than he did there. Exactly, Thomas. Why is Tilio still here? Why is he here? But again, some of the other positives there. Yep, Donovan, it was good to see Donovan getting a wee bit of game time. Dane Murray as well, he's been a guy who's been getting some game time during this pre-season. I think he looks physically up for it. Again, he looks like an option. Stephen Welsh, good to see him back on the pitch and not injured. And I'm not saying because and I know you don't like me saying it, but good that he's fit, because now we can move him on. If there's still people that want him, it's time to move him on. I thought it was quite funny. God love, Welsh. He's Celtic through and through. He's a local guy to me and Paddy. He's a local lad, but your tea's out, brother. Your tea's out. I don't think it's going to happen for you. He looked like Bambi on ice. I know the pitch was soaking wet, but there was a couple of times there that he came round. Right, I'm going to speak about it ever so briefly, right, because it's here. I know it polarises. I know there's some big supporters, big fans in there. I know there's Monty, there's Strangelove, there's Brown. Plunge has gone straight in, 2-footed. We wasted 20 million in Engels and Ida, and won't make any profit on them, and that's the board's problem. What do you think, guys? Bring it up. Let's get this wee bit of chat here. As I says, I don't want to go too long. I don't want to keep it laboured. However, again, I will just come back with my observation, at least my opinion. I think that for me, I put a comment out on social media. Again, I don't want to get on the Engels hate train. It isn't going to be that way, and I know sometimes it feels that way, but unfortunately, as I say, he's not shown enough where I can come and wax lyrical about him. Brilliant penalty taker, by the way. Really, really good penalty taker. Another decent penalty tonight. But it then comes back to, I'll use a comparison, and yeah, you might not like the comparison. I am not saying that the same thing. Don't misconstrue what I'm saying. Look for the context. We'll sit here as Celtic fans, right? And we will slag off James Tavernier, for example, for his record at Rangers, goals scored, penalties scored, and stuff like that. And we'll say, he's not that good. Don't care how many penalties he scored or how many free kicks he scored. He's crap, right? We will say that. Yet, when it comes to guys like Ida and it comes to guys like Engels, we will fire out stats like the amount of goals they score or the amount of set-ups that they do and justify that's why they're good. You can't have it both ways. And as I say, for me, I think that, I mean, there you go. This is my point. It's polarising. You know, Slaven Cabbage doesn't agree and doesn't want to lump the two of them into the same sentence. You and I had that chat, Slaven, on the Axiom after it. I think that, you know, I think the problem is, let's make this abundantly clear, the fees aren't the issue. I had this chat with Mile Moy earlier on, actually. You know, the fees aren't the issue. See, when you think about it, 9 million and 11 million is chump change in world football. But you cast your mind back to the Martinelli era. You were spending £6 million on the likes of Sutton, Thompson, you know, Petrov, you know, so on, Lennon, so on and so forth, right? See, when you adjust for inflation, right? 25 years worth of inflation. Those 9 and 11 million players, 9 and 11 million pound players that we are buying, they're probably about 3.5 million pound players back in the day. Celtic should be paying those kind of fees comfortably, and it shouldn't be a problem. We shouldn't flinch at it. And yet, you also say, well, you're contradicting yourself. So why do we bring up the fee? Well, the reason I bring up the fee is I'm not saying that it's, you know, too much money. I'm not saying, I admittedly, I do think that we paid too much for both of them, not because they're not worth it, just because our negotiated so garbage. But I do think that when you look at it, those fees are, as I say, back in the day, when you account for inflation, about £3 million players, right? And in today's money, that's essentially what they'd be back in the day. So I don't see why it's a problem. But the reason people look at the fee is because they are still the highest fees that we're playing at the moment. And with that, you can, maybe it shows you what you get then versus now for that kind of money. But that's the problem. I think that people, and again, Thomas Burn says when he left, we were on £30 million a day. Yeah, we were. We were, of course we were. And we have been able to kick on, but you can't then have it both ways. Celtic have been ran well as a business, but for Celtic to go out and spend those kind of fees on a frequent, I'm not talking about getting into debt. I'm talking about having a net spend. You know, if you look, again, I keep directing folk back to you because it's evergreen, and until something drastic changes. One of the first videos we done on this channel, check it out if you haven't, and it's called Smoke Mirrors, the Deception of Celtic's Transfer Strategy, right? Nothing has changed. You could cut and paste that to last season. You could cut and paste that to where we are at this season. The facts remain the same. Celtic bring in millions upon millions. We are a juggernaut. And you might say, well, that's good business. But what Celtic do is Celtic spend enough money to keep the naysayers happy, to make it look like they're doing something. Look at us. Broke the transfer record, 11 million there, Arnie Engels, brilliant, get some of that down you. Oh, there's Adam Eder, 9 million, but as I says, when you account for inflation, these guys and those fees aren't quite as impressive as they look on paper, particularly against the backdrop of what we make as a club. What Celtic do is Celtic continually post a profit, not just a profit in the bank, a profit on what we bring on players. In my opinion, it is inexcusable, it is unacceptable every single transfer window to make more money incoming than you put out the door. Yes, it's player trading. Yes, that's good, but that'll never fail. Why don't Celtic break the mould for once, just one season, and actually spend from the bank on top of what they've brought in an extra 10 million for talking's sake? It doesn't have to be fortunes. I'm not having to say that they have to spend that 21.5 million that we're currently in profit and then slap 20 million or 25 million top of it. Now, we could do it. And this is the thing. People will talk about bedwetting and all that kind of stuff. The reality is, if Celtic went out and spent the 21 million that we're sitting in profit and added an extra 50 or 20 million on it, newsflash, Celtic aren't going to go bust. We're not going to go out of business. We can do it. Speculate to accumulate, buy the players, spend at least the 21 million you've got in the bank now on players with a mindset, with a view of we will qualify for the Champions League. Then you scrape it back, and as I says, and I will repeat again, if you didn't get in the Champions League, if it was Europa League or Conference League, whatever it is, guess what? You've got a better squad. You could go deeper than that. You could even, dare I say it, get to the final and maybe win it. If Rangers can do it with what they had, there's no reason why Celtic couldn't, with the squad that we've got, plus a few extra top quality signings. It is very, very possible. It is just down to what the board want to do. And that is my takeaway for it there. So I don't know if you agree with that. That's my mini rant over. But yes, we were in debt in the Martin O'Neill era, but we have so far ahead now. We are so ahead of the curve. We are an absolute juggernaut. Celtic could spend more. They choose not to. It's a wait and see what happens attitude, and that's completely the wrong attitude to have. Now, again, I'll just mention it. Look at Rangers. They're spending money. The players might all be garbage, but they're giving themselves a shot at it. And you know what? See, if they don't make the Champions League, yeah, they might be in a wee sticky wicket. But the reality is, again, theoretically, they could make a better stab with whatever competition they get into. That's the way they're looking at it. These new owners that they've got are looking at it thinking, yes, we need to balance the books. We need to be frugal. We need to make them a going concern. But fans pay to watch product on the pitch. Let's try and give them the best that you can possibly get at. So just before we finish up, let's see if there's any other opinions in here. I mean, what do you guys think of this? But Leanne's saying, do the board trust Brendan Rodgers? It's a tough one, isn't it? Because I think that when you look over his entire time at Celtic, I would probably say there's more misses than there is outright hits. I think that's probably fair to say. And again, coming back to just the fees that we spoke about, I don't think that the fees are outrageous, and I think they should be spending it. But again, people are, disagreeing with what we're saying amongst ourselves on here, or what I'm saying, or what Paddy's saying, or whoever it may well be saying on these kind of platforms. But I can guarantee you that the board's expectations are going to be far loftier than mine, because they're looking at it as being an asset in the pitch, and they're not just looking at it and saying, yeah, somebody that produces on the pitch. They're also looking at it and saying somebody that produces that when the time's to move on. And do I think at this moment in time we would make huge profit on either Engels or Ida? No, I don't. I think we'd get our money back and we'd clean our nose, but I don't think that's certainly the board. Again, talking about speculating and accumulate, they want to fire out 11 million and 9 million because they're hoping that when the time comes around, these guys get sold, that they then become 30 million players. So they're looking at that as well. That's an interesting thing. Oh, Paddy is in the house. Here he is. Oh, listen, Paddy, we know it's the worst kept secret ever. It's the worst kept secret ever. We'll maybe get a wee alarm or something set up so that we can joke the next time you mention them. But as I say, I don't want to go down that Ida and Engels route. Time will tell. I speak for everybody, and I know I speak for you, Paddy, when I say that we want these guys to succeed. I would love nothing more than these guys to come on a game and be indispensable. First name the team sheet material. I really, really would. I just don't feel at this moment in time that they've kicked on to that next gear. There is work to be done with them. But I'm okay with that because I think we've got enough promise in some of the guys that are in those positions fighting along with them as well. So I'll take that as a win, and I'll take that as I find it. In terms of just to wrap up the action, yep, second half, far more improved. I think it looked a lot more comfortable. We started to settle in. Things sort of took shape. I thought AL-AHLI started to die off a wee bit. Unlucky. We probably should win the game. A fantastic bit of work. I just want to touch on McCowan again. I've been singing his praises the whole game. Very unlucky with that shot. He deserved a goal. That was maybe the thing that was missing. I know he's steps up for the penalties, but I'm talking about a goal. I think that that was the only thing that was missing for his game, and it was rounded off a fantastic outing for our Scots homegrown hero, 100%. I'd love to see that. But yeah, I liked what I saw for him. Yamada, I've said enough here, are very, very early signs, but the early signs are good. There's promise in there, and I definitely like to see what's going on there, and hopefully that's somebody that can kick on. Sinisalo, yeah, I liked him over the piece. I thought that he'd done everything right, and more importantly, as I say, in some of the comments I brought up, it was good to see the youth coming on. Good to see them. Good to see there's promise there. However, again, it's not their fault, but it's not completely the answer. Come back to the question, the rhetorical question, I suppose. Are we new season and Champions League qualifier ready? No, we're not. We're not. I'm trying to stay optimistic. I'm trying to stay 100% positive, and that's us. But anyway, I am going to get out your hair, as I say, a wee bit amusing, a wee bit sort of opinion based. I just wanted to bring up what you guys thought on there, and I've always enjoyed sitting talking about it. It's a wee bit hard when you're here on your own. Sometimes we can get down wee rabbit holes and scything off and have different directions. But no, I think by pre-season so far, it's been a mixed bag, hasn't it? It really has. Particular highs, undoubtedly. Newcastle, phenomenal performance, almost without fault. A good bit of grit to get the result against Sporting Lisbon. And then, of course, when we look at Ajax, very much, as we said, a tale of two halves. First half, comfortable, decent. Second half, capitulation. There should be learning points for that. And I felt that tonight we did learn, because it would have been very, very easy for that game to go down the same route as the Ajax game. Because even though AL-AHLI did look a wee bit sort of flagging as the game sort of went on, maybe that was partly to do with some of the good to see you, Quinny, mate. Good to see you. As the time went on, I think that that's maybe where some of the high, heavy tackling came in, where it was heavy legs. I know they'd played a fair bit of football, but it would have been easy for us to just give in and submit, and for that game to turn out to a loss. So to get it in the draw and then get it over the line in penalties, I suppose you can't say fairer than that. It's a decent one, but definitely I think that certainly I'm not in a converted loft. I am downstairs in my living room of all places. It's just got this weird alcove underneath the stairs here. As I say, I'm still very much in the temporary setup. I'm having to sort of move around the house to try and get a comfortable space whilst I can. But anyway, we have spoke on enough. Nearly 140 he's watching. Brilliant. I love that this late on, as I say. And we'll be back at some point. We may be back tomorrow. I'll tie in with some of the guys, but if not, you'll definitely catch us back here on the channel by the turn of the week. Hopefully, please, Celtic, they give the manager what he wants. I'll repeat, I'll close it. £20.75 million in profit. Just about £3 million spent. Give us those players, Celtic board. Come on. You know what we need. Give us some wingers. Give us a striker. Give us a left back. Give us a right back. I'm getting greedy now. It might happen. It might happen. But anyway, take care of yourselves. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't, hit subscribe. Cost you nothing. Help us get to, firstly, 1888 subscribers. I think we're like, 3 or 4 away. Help us get that. If you are one of the ones watching and subscribed, help us get to 1888 for the close of tonight. Help us hit 2K for the start of the new season. It is possible. We're about 110 off it. Let's go. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves. We'll see you back at some stage. And as always, take care and hail, hail.